This is a class that will use 4 different approaches to think about contemporary poetry. And contemporary poetry is a particular richness right now. There's a vast moment for poetry in this moment. And so I'm really excited about thinking about different ways to approach poetry through the course. And we'll use what I'm thinking of as a contemporary lyric as a way to think about what's happening in poetry right now. We'll use investigations of language and how language goes about its work of making meaning. We'll look at formality and playfulness in contemporary poetry, and we'll look at the spectrum of the personal and the political. So each of these will give a student in the class a toolkit to think about poems that they might find out there in the world and give different ways of approaching. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and I think particularly the richness of contemporary poetry is what's most exciting. And so the course has been envisioned for a casual reader or for someone who might like to read more poetry than they do. And when you approach what is happening in the contemporary moment for poetry, there's a lot of opportunity there, but there's a lot of different kinds of things that you'll find. And so across the 4 different class sessions, each one will be a way to equip a reader with different ways to think about what they might encounter on the page. I think students will gain an appreciation for the richness of contemporary American work and what's happening in poetry as a field. It's a vibrant moment. It's probably as vibrant as it has ever been. And there's so many different kinds of work that occur as poetry. Poetry in prose formats, poetry in traditional forms, poetry in more experimental modes. And so the class will survey across these different kinds of poetry and allow students a chance to experience what's happening in a survey format across all of these different ways that poetry is operating right now. We're going to read work from a diverse range of poets, and so we'll be reading work from writers like Robert Hass, poets like Ross Gay, Solmaz Sharif, Layli Long Soldier. We'll be reading work from Carl Phillips, and we'll be looking at some essays from poets like Christian Wyman, from Robert Hass again, and from Claudia Rankine. And across these poets, what we find is that people are thinking about what is happening in the contemporary moment in different ways. And they're formulating different approaches germane to their own thinking and understanding of their own interests. And we will use that as a way to create a context for understanding across the 4 different sessions in the course. So if you're interested in learning more about contemporary American poetry, and if you're interested in maybe reading more poetry than you might be doing right now, this is a great course that will equip you with some skills to make those approaches and to think in new ways about what you might encounter as you start to think about poetry more in your reading habits. And so expect to learn some techniques, some tips, and some approaches that will equip you for what you might find out there. I invite you to come take this course if you're interested in a range of reading across a lot of different kinds of thought and experiencing firsthand all the different ways that poetry is happening right now in the contemporary moment. Recent visitors to the Poetry Center, some of the course will explore new visitors upcoming to the Poetry Center. You'll have a chance to really engage with and learn from this particular moment.